quick note about the metrics and just talking about that for a second, how important having good metrics is to be able to plan ahead with confidence versus the leading by gut feeling, because that does open you up to how you're feeling that day. You could be feeling optimistic, or you could have gotten off a really bad sales call, and all of a sudden, as humans, we have that linear thinking. And so we're saying, no, it's all bad, and I'm not gonna, like, that quota is way too high, or I just got off of two really good sales phone calls back to back, and I'm just like, this is amazing. I'm gonna blow past these numbers, increase the quota some. So there's a really big danger to a business to not having good metrics to rely on. So I know I'm working with a lot of, like, I'd say small to medium-sized businesses, some of which just we're working on implementing CRM systems. It's so important to have access to this data, so that way you can plan ahead with confidence. And there are so many systems out there that help with this. So I know, Matt, you and I most recently were using HubSpot. It's amazing, super powerful, really expensive. So if you are one of, like, my clients who's smaller to medium-sized business, I've been recommending more so lately Go High Level, really powerful, very similar features, and a fraction of the cost. And it actually has more capabilities than HubSpot in some areas, because it came afterwards. So it's been learning from what HubSpot's done well and what HubSpot has not done well. So just throwing that out there for any listeners. If you don't have a CRM, you're tuning in so you can plan with confidence for 2026. Highly recommend putting it in your budget for 2026 to get a CRM. HubSpot, to get all the full capabilities, is about $800 a month versus Go High Level, which is about $200 a month. So those would be the two systems that I like the most. And I've been doing a lot of research on CRMs lately, and Go High Level is better than the rest. Not a great sales process. So hang in there through the sales process. They don't have any sales staff. It's all automated, and you do it all on your own. So that can be one of the frustrating parts. But so glad you touched upon the metrics, because otherwise you can't plan with confidence if you don't have the data.
Right.
What size company? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, tying it back to one of the points you made earlier, Alan, is right. We need to achieve this number. Well, how are we going to do that? Why do you think that's possible? Right. It's the data, good data in, good data out, having those metrics, those KPIs that help us understand our business. That's how we're going to achieve that. And if we don't have that, we're flying by the seat of our pants.
And what size company in revenue can take advantage of what we're talking about, especially that, what'd you call it, Kim? High-low?
Yep, Go High Level. I would even say if you're at $1 million and up, you need a CRM.
Wow. Wow, $1 million. I would not have guessed that. I thought you were going to say 10.
No. If you're at 10 million, you've been missing out a lot from not having a CRM, and more so just for just for the data for forecasting and everything that we're talking about here today. But it manages your pipeline, so that way you can see how many deals you have at each stage of your pipeline. So that way you can see if it's getting dry and you have problems coming up, or if it's very robust and you're going to need to hire. Being so small, you're more nimble and can act much more quickly. And so having that insight into the trends of what's going on in the business allows you to capitalize on those a lot faster, and helps your growth. And it helps avoid some of the pitfalls and risks by not seeing that report around you.
Okay. So if I'm a $2 million company, my expertise in this area is probably pretty small, and I'm very, very busy just trying to get things done. And I want to do this Go High Low. Did I get that right yet?
Go High Level.
Go High Level. I should write that down. Okay. And you said there's no sales process. I have to implement it myself. And that initially is going to scare me off. It's like, I don't have time for that. So who do I turn to implement it for me, with me, teach me, show me?
There are virtual assistants all over the internet. So there's places like Upwork, that you can go on to. You just Google Upwork. It's a website, and you can go into Upwork and you can say, I'm looking for somebody to help me implement, go high level, and it will give you basically people's resumes that would qualify for that kind of a work or for that kind of a job. And they're all by the hour. So they also have virtual assistants that just have that experience. Like, so for example, one of my clients, he and I had decided, well, let me see if anybody in my network, I reached out to a few people, one of which she said, she's like, yeah, I'd be happy to help with that kind of a project on the side and stuff. So it's asking around your network, asking peers, do you guys have a CRM system? What are you using? Because there are different kinds for different markets. There are good, better ones for if you're in, say, wealth management. There are better ones if you are in construction and landscaping. So it really would, and again, that's with AI out there, just ask GPT. My business is this. This is what I'm doing. This is how big I am. This is what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to see X, Y, and Z. What CRM system is best for me? And in terms of cost, here is like my budget that I'm looking to spend. Give me the top 3 recommendations in a table, and GPT will spit that out and all the information and do a cross comparison for you. If you are anybody who's listening, if you don't have a CRM system and you're wanting to know what are the must-haves in a CRM system, feel free to email me. It's Kimberly at V as in Victor, 2A as in Alpha marketing.com. I have an Excel spreadsheet of a list of these should be your bare minimum must-haves in a CRM system, and I'm happy to share that out.
That's great, Kim, and great advice. I tried that, and what it told me, ChatGPT said, you are doomed. So,
It's like, don't touch computer.
denied, denied, denied.
Calculator is most sophisticated for you.
That's right. Exactly, exactly. So, okay, we got this bottom up, we got metrics, we have tools that will help us with the metrics. Well, on the human side, if you're a smaller company, that must be a leap for folks to do that kind of forecasting because we, the 3 of us, know a lot of people over the years who are just don't think it's necessary. What happens, happens, and what will be, will be. And I'm a nimble guy, small person in a big industry, so I can hit my numbers no matter what's going on. You get some of that. Any response to any of that?
I think they're missing out on a ton of opportunity, right? If that's how they want to run their business, that's fine. If they want to grow their business, maybe faster than they have historically, they need to understand their business. Maybe it just shows a lack of understanding to some extent, maybe because they don't have a CRM, they don't have that visibility into their business. But I think understanding your business gives you a better opportunity, and I mean understanding in terms of putting together a forecast, gives you the ability to be strategic, right? It helps you set budgets. It helps you set quotas for your team, accurate quotas. So I think if you're just kind of going by the seat of your pants, maybe you're not able to do those things. I think it maybe limits your growth potential.
If you want to grow.
If you want to grow.
I have a lot of thoughts on that. I am constantly shocked by how many businesses fall into that bucket that are not doing any kind of forecasting. They're like, well, typically we grow by 6% year over year, so that's what we're going to just continue to assume that we are going to do. I'm also constantly shocked at how many businesses are not doing the strategy part after the sales forecasting. That's going to be, as I mentioned, the remainder of our series is the how. What strategy should you be putting into place? And they're not doing that either. I think it's extremely risky because you're making an assumption that next year is going to be the same conditions as this year. And as we all know on this call, that's not the case. Everything goes through cycles. And so you are just potentially setting yourself up for failure or missed opportunity, like Matt said. So I think it's very risky, which is why I'm very happy to be out there running around the world trying to help people see that and help them do it.
Excellent. How long does it take a smaller company? Because time is important to that entrepreneur. How much time are we asking them to allocate to this process?
I think it depends on what systems they have in place.
Yeah, and
Let's
it
assume
depends on
somebody
whether or not
without
they.
the high, what, I'm sorry, I was going to say, let's assume it's somebody who's at the beginning of this process, no high go level. I'm so sorry.
I like it.
I'm going to write it down one of these times. I promise I will. HubSpot, I can remember. This newer, more, this one I'm having a hard time. But all right, I don't have that. So I'm really, I'm at that 1.5 million, 2 million, and I just seem like I need to do something to get more organized, to get more efficient about all of this. I go to you and I have no marketing, I have no CRM, and I'm looking for help. How much of my time is going to be taken up doing this versus I'm the guy generating the person generating the revenue. I'm the person who's the engineer. I'm the person who can't devote a lot of time to this, so it's on top of what I'm already doing. Is that going to be prohibitive to them?
Matt, you look like you were going to answer before, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I it won't be prohibitive to them, right? You don't need to develop the perfect plan to begin with. I think just starting somewhere will give you better understanding of your business, like I was saying before, right? Putting together an understanding of how your existing business is going to move forward, what your new business typically looks like, right? Most business owners have an understanding of that breakdown. From there, again, adding in those layers. What seasonality do we have? What sort of backlog do we have? What's our sales cycle? Right, a lot of things we can look at to build that up. Again, it's something. Just putting that together gives you greater insight. So if you spend a day, 2 days, a weekend putting something like that together, I think it's going to benefit you well beyond the time you've put in.
I'm just going to paraphrase. Far from crushing, definitely worthwhile, and an acceptable amount of time to achieve the results that will be beneficial to you and your family and everybody else if you have any employees. Is that a
I
good summary?
agree. Yeah, and I agree with that summary in specific cases because there are cases where I'm talking to people and they don't know what their sales cycle is. They don't know what their conversion rate is. They don't know how many leads they're bringing in every month, and they don't know how many of those leads are closing into business. They don't know where the leads are coming from or why they got a lead. It's usually or just, well, somebody heard of us. It was word of mouth. So if they are that I'm just going to use the word that popped in my head. If they are that infant in this process where they don't know the answers to those metrics, Matt, that you were just mentioning, and they don't have the systems in place to figure them out. And to your question, Dad, is it going to feel prohibitive to them to spending the time to say, put something into place for 2026 now? Because it sounds like there's a lot that goes into all of this. It can, to your point, Matt, be compounding. You don't have to do it all right now. But if you are that owner where you're an owner operator, you're not just running the business, you're working in the business, you're not working on the business, then my advice is that yes, it is going to feel prohibitive because it's going to feel like just another thing on your plate. And go talk to Ryan Tansom, because that's what he does and that's how he helps his clients. He has this really, really cool way of looking at the paradigm of basically life, as he calls it, where it's we are here to make money for wealth, which is our value. We have our time in our lives and so on and so forth. And like, how much time do we want to apply to making wealth versus how much time do we want to apply to receiving value, like our friends, our family, and time like that? And because he understands it in such a way, he helps coach business owners who are still operating in the business to peel back the onion to say, why are you doing that? Like you did make enough profits last year, hire so and so to take that off of your plate. So that way now you can start doing this on the business part of it. And he just helps them see the order of operations to slowly get those things off of their plate while still hitting their financial targets, while teaching them how to do some of this forecasting stuff, just using their own financials. Because that's where he starts, is that they all have financials. So they might not know conversion rates, they might not know close rates or average deal size or any of that, but they do have financials of some kind. And he's helping them learn how to use those financials to see at least 3 to 6 months into the future for their business. And so that's a very simple, easy way to start while you then start working to take these next steps of a true bottoms up forecast.
That's perfect. Because I was growing concerned that folks might hear this, and because we started off at a pretty involved level, and think, well, that's too big for me. That's too much for me. But it's sort of like it reminded me, Kim, of Steve Baker's open book. You don't start with everything open book. You start off with sharing some things, and you grow through time to where you're enabling an entire system. And that's the same thing here. We just start with small, and we eventually build an entire system that can really be quite powerful as we go forward, uh, without ruining your life in the process so you never see your family because you're so busy with your head in the CRM. I mean, that's nobody's idea of a good day.
Yeah, the CRM should definitely create efficiencies, not adding to your workload. So thinking through, because I know we're nearing the end of our episode, a lot of this in my mind is extremely relatable for folks in the service industry and to some extent manufacturing and to some extent distribution. But there are nuances in manufacturing and distribution where this, like there are other things that should be considered and built into a bottoms up forecast. And then a burning question that I had that I wanted to throw at you both because I've been thinking about it a lot lately, construction. I'm a large project-based business. How do these things that we talked about today apply to me as a construction business? And what other nuances should I be looking at as a construction business owner?
I think as a construction, if you're project based in general, you're looking at backlog as well as new bookings, right? These things can be highly variable. Typically, when you're putting together a forecast, I think a reasonable number is 2 to 3 times your sales cycle. Determines really the length where you can see accuracy in your forecast. So if you have a long sales cycle, right, that's going to introduce some high variability with small changes, right, affecting the long-term outcome.
Thank you. Dan, what are your thoughts?
Well, if it's a bid type of contractor, you can look at, how many, you can look at potential by looking at your bid success rate and how many bids are coming in. That allows you that. Then you know how long the projects last generally, and you can work from there. If you're a negotiated contractor where there's no bidding involved, you're a project manager, or you're going to do the whole thing, doesn't really matter. It's negotiated contract. Then you have to know your industry. If you do a lot of airport work, you can become an expert in what's happening in the airport world just because you talk to people and you deal with the different states or municipalities, whatever. So you can still get a really good feel that that's steady work. If you're a contractor that builds high-end homes, you get a feel for what's going on. And there are external numbers that can help with that. But generally, I have found that contractors can develop a sense for a changing wind because all of a sudden they notice that the air is a little chillier in the architect's office, or they notice that there's a slower, the process has just slowed down, and that's a warning sign to them that they should expect some slowdown themselves. And so they have leading indicators that they maybe not verbalize, but they do have a sixth sense for.
And you touched upon something that I keep coming back to is that it seems to me that the external forces become that much more critical for those types of businesses. Like they're still critical and important for these other types that we've been talking about, but in my mind, there's less internal data points. Like we've been talking, the average deal close, conversion rate, sales cycle, all of that. And there's less of those in some of these, in this other instance where it becomes even more important to know, all right, your external environment is expected to do X because a lot of that's going to dictate the bids and the RFPs and the different contracts coming your way. So I was curious your thoughts on that. Do we think it's even more important than for those listening in these other industries? You're really got to nail down step two, economic indicators, because it's that much more important for your type of business. Curious your thoughts.
If you can, we've looked at large, lumpy companies before, and the large dollars and extremely lumpy because of the size of the dollars and time it takes to produce and ship or build whatever it happens to be. And it can become very difficult. You look for external factors that will give a general direction and some general estimates, but to come up with you will grow by 12% is next to impossible because it is large and lumpy. But you can say, I think in 18 months you're going to be hitting a wall. I think in 18 months you're going to find a lot more opportunity. You can do that type of forecasting, but the specifics of dollar amounts are something that have always perplexed me with large, lumpy.
I think that's still important though, because that's going to help with their budgets. I think in
Absolutely.
18 months that you're going to have a lot of work coming your way, then I know that I'm going to, for labor, start considering X, Y, and Z. Versus if I'm coming off of a strong year and I'm like, I need to hire some more, and all of a sudden my external factors are saying you're going to be hitting a wall come April of next year, then I'm going to, whoa, we're not going to make that. So I think it still helps with the budget process.
Yeah, it certainly does, without a doubt. And Matt, to your earlier point about the financials, it reminds me of a story of a contractor, kind of large, kind of lumpy, but he didn't understand his financials. Really nice guy. I liked the guy and really knew how to handle a piece of equipment, be a grader or backhoe, whatever. And when times are good, was making a lot of money, but he didn't understand that revenue is not the same as cash and not the same as income, which are in themselves two different things. So he'd get a large check in payment for some work that he did, go out buy another piece of equipment. And he didn't understand that that wasn't all spendable. That was there. So I, I guess I'm bringing us back to the beginning. It all begins with financial statement acumen. You have to understand what financial statements are like, and at its basic level, not everyone in business does. They're not there. So we can't begin this process of sales forecasting without an understanding of basic financial statements. And the statement of cash flows is key, and most people ignore that.
Mhm.
So statement, understanding financials, then the basics from there go into what type of company and where are they in the whole process. Do they have a CRM that they can use? And from there, you can begin to crawl, walk, and then run as you go forward. And next thing you know, you're a $50 million company and you're ready to sell it for 100 million, and the kids are all lined up going, "Great job, mom! Great job."
Exactly. You've created yourself a predictable revenue stream.
Right. But it does take work and a sense of humility, in my opinion.
Agreed. Matt, closing thoughts as we near the end of our episode this week. Things you want to share, make sure that our audience takes away.
Well, this is about the growth playbook. So I am a big believer in businesses should grow, and I think this is foundational to that growth. Understanding how you're going to get there, what steps you need to take, right? If you're going to set out a goal, it's great to set that goal, but it's better to understand what steps you need to take to achieve that goal. So, yeah, forecasting, understanding your business, visibility, mitigate risk, and grow. I think that's what it's all about.
Excellent. Dad?
I did mine right before Matt. I'm done.
Hey, I missed the mic drop. Perfect. All right. Well, great. I hope everybody that tuned in today had some takeaways from our conversation today. Certainly, anytime, reach out to us, put your comments in. We're happy to answer. If you do not have CRM, get one. That's something that is really just critical to managing your sales process and having these metrics that we're talking about. Again, as I mentioned, I have a cheat sheet. If you want to just see what an ideal scenario looks like with a CRM, happy to send that out as well. And as always, please like and subscribe and follow along. We're looking forward to continuing in our 2026 Planning for Confidence series next week. Thanks for tuning in.